Welcome to Cybersecurity Under Pressure. Real attacks, real lessons.
Here we are. Yes, it is late, and yes, this document is disturbing.
Coffee is cold, but the analysis is hot. Let's go. Look, I am just going to say it straight out of the gate. The blue light from this monitor is absolutely burning a hole in my retina right now.
Yeah, my eyes are definitely blurring too.
We are sitting here in the middle of the night surrounded by, an absolute mountain of 2026 threat reports. We have raw data from IBM X-Force, Manage Engine, Entro Labs, Qualys, Embit, Al-Kindi Research, and just trying to synthesize the sheer volume of this is honestly making my head pound.
It is a lot, and it is incredibly heavy material. Let me just, these glasses are smudged again. Give me a second to wipe them down.
And make your time.
Okay, better. The through line here, the central thesis you need to understand as you listen to this is that the defense ecosystem we rely on is breaking.
Right.
It is fundamentally fracturing under the weight of AI-enabled attack speeds and, well, this massive, completely unmanaged sprawl of non-human identities.
The reality is, if you are still running the old security playbooks, the ones we relied on even just 3 years ago, you are obsolete, period.
Completely.
In the field, you can see it happening in real time. The manual processes, the human-driven ticketing systems, they just do not hold up anymore. So our goal for you on this deep dive is to break down exactly why the attack surface has fundamentally changed.
And where your blind spots actually are right now.
Exactly. And what the survival blueprint for 2026 has to look like. Because the old way is dead.
Completely dead. I want to start by looking at the attack tempo, the new speed of warfare, essentially. Because if you look at the cross-reference data from IBM X-Force and Qualys, you realize something terrifying.
Which is?
Attackers are not reinventing the wheel. They're not sitting in basements coming up with entirely new, never-before-seen, zero-day playbooks every single morning.
Right, they do not have to.
No, they do not have to. They are simply using AI to speed up the old playbooks to a point where human defenders literally cannot react fast enough.
Yeah, it is the shrinking exploit window. This is the part that really gets me, especially coming from the operational technology side of things. Let's pause and actually define what we mean by an exploit window for you.
Good idea.
When a software vendor discovers a flaw in their code, they publish a CVE, a common vulnerability and exposure record. It is essentially a public bulletin saying, hey, there is a hole in our software, here is the patch.
Right.
The exploit window is the time between that public announcement and the moment hackers actually start using that hole to break into systems in the wild.
Exactly. And look at the historical timeline Qualys laid out here. Back in 2018, you had an average of 63 days between a CVE being published and the first time someone actually exploited it in the wild. 63 days.
That is 2 full months.
I know.
2 months to get your change advisory board approvals, test the patch in a staging environment, roll it out during a scheduled weekend maintenance window, and verify everything is working.
It was a luxury.
Total luxury. I mean, it felt stressful at the time, but in hindsight, we were living on island time. Then by 2021, that dropped to 32 days.
Right.
By 2023, it was 5 days. 5 days to patch your entire global infrastructure. And now, according to Mandiant's data inside these 2026 reports, we are living in the day -1 reality.
Which means exploitation is routinely happening before the patch even exists.
Exactly. Before the vendor has even written the code to fix the hole, the AI-driven scanners have found it, weaponized it, and deployed it against enterprise networks globally.
But wait, hold on. Let me check this Al-Kindi Center for Research paper over here.
What is it?
Yeah, my G-Shock says, we have been staring at this for 3 hours, but I swear I just read a different number. Al-Kindi cites the time to exploit going from 37 days in 2021 down to 12 days today.
Wait, really? Let me see that. The Qualys data definitely said 32 down to 5.
Yeah, look at page 14 of the Al-Kindi brief. 37 down to 12.
Yeah.
Different data sets, I guess. Oh, I see what is happening. Al-Kindi is looking at a much broader set of lower severity CVEs across internal networks, while Qualys is specifically tracking the critical internet-facing vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
The ones that actually lead to immediate ransomware deployment. But regardless of the specific data set, the trend line is the exact same terrifying slope. We are facing a massive structural mismatch. You have human speed defense going up against machine speed offense.
Human speed defense. Think about what that actually looks like. It is Bob in IT opening a JIRA ticket.
Yeah.
It is a committee meeting on a Tuesday afternoon to discuss if updating a server will break the payroll application. It is manual testing. And we are putting Bob up against an autonomous AI that does not sleep, does not need a coffee break, and can scan the entire IPv4 internet space for vulnerable open ports in a matter of minutes.
And that is why AI is so incredibly dangerous in the hands of threat actors right now. IBM's Dave McGinnis makes this point brilliantly in the X-Force report. The AI is relentless.
It really is.
But here is the really frustrating part, the part that makes you want to pull your hair out. The IBM X-Force Threat Index points out that despite all this advanced machine speed AI at the attacker's disposal, the actual root causes of the breaches,
Let me guess.
they still stem from basic hygiene failures. We are talking missing multi-factor authentication, massive identity sprawl, legacy accounts just left active for years.
If this coffee has gone completely ice cold, but I need the caffeine. Basic hygiene. You know, in the field, when I'm working on OT systems, operational technology, the physical stuff, the manufacturing floors, the power grids, deploying basic controls at scale is an absolute nightmare.
I can imagine.
My fingers are literally stained from working on physical panels, and let me tell you, the disconnect between IT security theory and OT physical reality is massive. We're dealing with environments that are incredibly complex and fragile.
Fragile how? Help me understand that physical reality, because from an IT perspective, you just push a software update.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
You cannot just push an update. You have legacy systems that literally cannot support MFA. There is no screen to prompt you for a 6-digit code.
Right.
You have programmable logic controllers, PLCs, from 2012 that are managing a massive physical turbine. If you run a modern, aggressive vulnerability scan on that PLC, it will not just log an error. The processor will panic, the system will crash, and the physical turbine will spin out of control or shut down a factory floor.
Wow.
It is a slow, methodical, physical reality. And we are trying to protect that slow physical reality against an AI that operates in milliseconds.
That makes total sense, and it perfectly explains this next statistic. The IBM data showed that because of these complexities, because defenders cannot secure the front door of these massive, fragile environments, supply chain compromises have nearly quadrupled since, was it 2020?
Let me check.
Let me flip back through these pages. Yes, since 2020, quadrupled. Because if an attacker knows your main corporate network is somewhat defended, but they know you rely on a third-party vendor whose security is weaker, they will just compromise the vendor you trust and ride their legitimate access right into your network.
But I want to push back on this day-1 concept for a second, because it feels like a logical paradox.
How so?
If the attack happens before the patch even exists, aren't we just throwing our hands up and admitting defeat? It's like trying to put out a fire that started tomorrow. How do you defend against something that literally has no function? It feels nihilistic.
It is not admitting defeat, but it is a total fundamental paradigm shift in how we have to think about security. For the last 20 years, the model was find a hole, patch the hole.
Right.
But if you cannot patch the hole because the patch has not been invented yet, you have to pivot entirely to mitigation. You have to assume the hole will be exploited and focus entirely on reducing the blast radius. If they get in, what can they touch? How far can they move?
Contain.
Exactly, containment. Which brings us to the core mechanism of how these machine speed attacks are actually spreading so fast once they get inside. Because if AI is speeding up the attacks, it is not doing it by brute forcing human passwords.
No.
It is doing it by exploiting the fastest growing, least monitored, and most highly privileged part of your network.
The machines themselves.
Yes. The non-human identities, the NHIs.
Okay, let's unpack this Manage Engine and Entra Labs data, because this is where the math just gets completely absurd and, frankly, terrifying. According to the 2026 numbers, the ratio of non-human to human identities in the average enterprise has hit 144 to 1.
And just to give you a sense of how fast this is accelerating, that is up 56% just from the first half of 2024, when the ratio was 92 to 1.
Man, my back is killing me from this chair. I have been hunched over these spreadsheets for hours trying to make sense of how an organization even gets to that point. A 144 to 1 ratio.
It is insane.
Let's define what we mean by non-human identities for you, just so we are all on the exact same page. Because it is not just robots. We are talking about service accounts, API keys, OAuth tokens, automated deployment scripts, background bots, basically anything that authenticates to a system or requests access to data that is not a breathing person typing a password on a keyboard.
Right. If you have an application that pulls data from a cloud database, that application has an identity. It has credentials. And the data shows that 89% of organizations now have ratios of 25 to 1 or higher. 46% of them exceed 100 to 1.
And the healthcare sector.
Healthcare is hitting 500 to 1.
Now, healthcare makes sense when you really think about the physical infrastructure of a modern hospital. Every single patient monitor, every MRI machine, Every automated medicine dispensing cabinet on the floor needs to constantly authenticate to the hospital's internal network to send telemetry and pull patient records.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the sheer scale of that is what breaks the traditional security system. And this leads to what Manage Engine calls the visibility paradox.
Oh, this is fascinating and honestly a bit tragic. The survey data shows that 80% of top executives, the C-suite, the board members, believe their dormant or orphaned machine accounts are being actively tracked and securely managed.
Right.
But when you ask the actual security practitioners, the people in the trenches doing the work, only 50 to 70% agree. There is a massive disconnect between perceived security and ground truth.
What was I saying earlier? Right, the dashboards, I see this all the time when I consult. The C-suite gets these beautifully designed, perfectly aggregated Power BI dashboards that show a big green circle and say 98% compliance on identity management.
Oh, totally.
But those dashboards are mathematically designed to aggregate away the anomalies. They smooth out the edges to look good for a board presentation. They completely hide the 20% of untracked rogue identities. And guess what? That untracked 20% usually includes the oldest, most highly privileged service accounts in the entire infrastructure.
The super NHIs, that is the term Entro Labs uses for them. Their H1 2025 report did a deep dive into cloud environments, specifically AWS, and found that 1 in 20 machine identities carry full admin privileges.
Wow.
The dreaded asterisk in the IAM policy. For those who do not spend their days in Amazon Web Services, an asterisk in a permissions policy basically means allows account to do literally anything it wants to any resource.
The absolute keys to the kingdom. If a hacker gets that token, game over. They own your entire cloud.
Exactly, and the Entro report gets worse. They found that 8.7% of all NHIs are entirely overprivileged, showing zero activity across their granted permissions for 90 days.
So they just sit there.
They just sit there, holding a master key to the database, doing absolutely nothing for 3 months. Wait, this ring is spinning off my finger. I am getting so anxious just reading this part out loud.
There's a lot to take in.
Think about the traditional human-centric security model. It completely falls apart here. If you have a well-staffed team of 10 identity and access management admins, and they are responsible for a company with 10,000 human employees, okay. Maybe they can handle quarterly access reviews. Maybe they can keep up with onboarding and offboarding. But at a 100-to-1 ratio, those exact same 10 human admins are now facing 1 million machine identities.
It is mathematically impossible to govern manually. You cannot spreadsheet your way out of 1 million dynamic tokens.
It is impossible, and it is a completely different life cycle. The life cycle of a human employee is slow and stable. You hire them, they work for 3 years, maybe they get promoted and change roles once, and eventually they leave the company and you turn off their email account. A machine identity should have a dynamic life cycle measured in hours, or sometimes minutes. You spin up a temporary software container, it needs a token to pull a single database record, the container does its job and dies, and the token should instantly die with it, but it does not.
And that failure to kill the token gives us the digital fossils. This statistic completely blew my mind. 7.5% of machine identities have been living in these corporate environments for 5 to 10 years, and 1 in 1,000 has lived past a decade.
10 years.
A 10-year-old API key. Think about the reality of enterprise software development. Think about how many developers have come and gone in 10 years. Think about how many times that code base has been rewritten, refactored, and migrated to different servers.
So many times.
And nobody has deleted that original 10-year-old key because everyone is terrified that if they revoke it, some undocumented, mission-critical legacy system in the basement will suddenly catch fire and take down the billing system.
So what you are saying is we have built this massive, highly secure corporate skyscraper. And while we meticulously check IDs at the front door, run background checks, and use retina scanners for every single human employee who walks in, well, there are 144 invisible robots per employee, freely crawling through the ventilation shafts with master keys to every room.
Exactly.
And some of these robots have been living in the vents for a decade, completely unmonitored.
That is the perfect analogy, and they are completely invisible to the guards at the front door. They bypass all the human-centric security entirely. But here is where it gets so much worse. Where are these invisible robots getting their master keys?
That is the question.
You would logically think that developers are burying these highly privileged keys deep in some secure vault or an encrypted configuration file locked behind a firewall, right? No, They are sitting in plain sight. We are talking about massive secret sprawl.
This is where the Entra Labs and Ambit reports really start to sync up with the IBM data in a frightening way. We have talked in the industry for years about the concept of shift-left security, right?
Yep.
The idea that you move security testing earlier and earlier into the developer lifecycle. Do not wait until the app is finished to test it. Test the code while the developer is writing it in their IDE.
Exactly.
But Entra makes a critical point. Shift-left does not equal shift enough, because their telemetry shows that 43% of exposed secrets, passwords, OAuth tokens, API keys, they surface entirely outside of the source code.
My back is killing me from this chair.
Okay.
And now you're telling me almost half of our worst credential leaks are not even happening in GitHub or GitLab. Where the hell are they?
Slack. Slack is the #1 offender. According to the data, it accounts for 42% of SaaS secret exposures.
Unbelievable.
Developers are just casually copy-pasting API keys, database credentials, and production tokens into chat windows to help a coworker troubleshoot something on the fly. And once that text is in Slack, it lives there forever, completely unencrypted in the chat history, waiting for an attacker to compromise just one human Slack account and simply use the search bar to look for the word password.
It is the path of least resistance. In the field, you see it constantly. You have to empathize with the developer for a second. It is 4:55 p.m. on a Friday. The deployment build is failing. The project manager is breathing down their neck. The developer messages their lead. Hey, my build is failing. Can you send me the staging database password so I can bypass the vault and just test it locally?
Right, it happens all the time.
The lead says, sure, here, and pastes a 10-character string. Done. The build works. They go home. But that secret is now permanently etched into the corporate chat logs. And it is not just Slack. The report mentions SharePoint holds absolute troves of secrets. Half of all exposed SharePoint secrets are found in simple .xls Excel spreadsheets.
Oh my God.
Somebody literally named a file production passwords 2024.xls and synced it to the corporate cloud for the whole marketing department to access. The reality is, convenience is killing us.
No, wait. You missed the most modern, dangerous part of this.
What?
The AI chatbots. This is where convenience does not just leak data, it actively weaponizes it. The IBM 2026 Trends Report found over 300,000 ChatGPT credentials were sold on the dark web in 2025 alone.
300,000.
Yes. And it is not just human employees logging into ChatGPT to write marketing emails. It is AI agents. Organizations are rapidly building these autonomous AI agents that require deep access to corporate data to actually function.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If you want an AI to summarize your project, you have to give the AI agent credentials so it can log into your Salesforce, read your private emails, parse your Slack channels, and write summaries to your database. The IBM report specifically calls out OpenClaw, which is a highly popular open-source AI agent platform, and they label it a, quote, security nightmare.
And why exactly is it a nightmare? Because of the permissions.
Because of the combination of vast permissions and predictable behavior. Dave McGinnis from IBM had that great cynical quote about this. He asked, are agents the most helpful insider threat? Of course they are.
Explain the mechanics of that. How does an agent become an insider threat?
Because an AI agent does exactly what you tell it to do, at massive scale, without questioning the intent. If an attacker compromises the agent directly, or even just uses prompt injection, tricking the AI with a cleverly worded hidden instruction in a document it reads, the agent will cheerfully use its highly privileged non-human credentials to exfiltrate your entire customer database, honestly thinking it is just fulfilling a legitimate user request. It is an automated insider.
And the CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration and continuous deployment, are just as vulnerable. Intro notes that CI/CD pipelines drive 1 in 4 of all exposure incidents. Let's talk about the TJ Actions supply chain attack from last year, because this perfectly, horrifyingly illustrates the danger of non-human identities combined with automation.
Right, March 2025. This was a massive wake-up call for the industry.
For you listening, let's break down exactly how this happened. In modern software development, teams use GitHub Actions. An action is basically a pre-written recipe for automation. Instead of writing code to test your software every time you update it, you just import an action that someone else wrote to do the testing for you. It saves countless hours.
Yeah, it is a huge time saver.
TJ Actions was an incredibly popular suite of these recipes. So an attacker manages to steal a GitHub personal access token, a PPAID, that is a non-human identity. It is a string of characters that proves to GitHub that you have the authority to edit code. The attacker uses that stolen token to quietly inject malicious code into the legitimate TJ Actions repository.
And because it is an automation tool that other developers pull into their own pipelines automatically.
Exactly. By poisoning that one central recipe, the malicious code was automatically downloaded and propagated across 23,000 different corporate repositories the next time those companies ran a build.
And keep the scale in mind here. A single private GitHub repository averages 102 hard-coded secrets hidden inside it, database passwords, API keys, AWS tokens. So by compromising that one pipeline with one stolen non-human token, the attacker gained a foothold to potentially harvest millions of secondary secrets across 23,000 companies. The blast radius is astronomical.
It is. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. I know developers. Developers need to move fast. The business demands it. If you lock down every Slack message, if you aggressively prevent them from sharing keys, if you put massive bureaucratic roadblocks in front of their CI/CD pipelines to scan for every possible secret,
Yeah.
does not development just grind to a total halt? You cannot just tell an engineering team to stop using secrets without giving them a frictionless mechanism to actually do their jobs.
Which is exactly what AMA is trying to solve with a concept they call the secretless evolution. The philosophy is not to manage secrets better, it is to eliminate them entirely.
Right? Cryptographic workload IAM. This is a total game changer when you understand the mechanics of it. Let's break down how it actually works. In the old system, an application needs to talk to a database, so a developer gives the application a static password. In the secretless evolution, the platform verifies identity cryptographically based on the runtime environment itself.
Meaning what, exactly, for the non-technical listener?
It means that instead of a developer copying a static 10-year-old database password out of an Excel file and pasting it into the app's configuration, the application itself automatically requests access at the exact moment it needs it, at runtime.
Okay.
The identity provider system looks at the application, verifies its cryptographic signature, basically checking the application's unforgeable digital DNA, and says, yes, I can mathematically prove you're the authorized staging container running on the correct server. It then dynamically issues a short-lived, just-in-time token that automatically expires in 5 minutes. The developer never sees a password.
That is brilliant.
They never touch a secret.
Yep.
They do not need to copy-paste anything into Slack because there is nothing to copy.
It fundamentally shrinks the attack surface. If there are no long-lived passwords in existence, there is nothing to steal from a SharePoint Excel file. There's nothing to harvest from a compromised GitHub repository.
Exactly. You eliminate the root cause. But even if we deploy cryptographic IAM, if we accept that we cannot instantly stop every single legacy secret from leaking overnight, and we accept that attackers are exploiting new flaws at day -1, how do we actually survive the impact? Humans are too slow to respond to a 5-minute token abuse. We have to automate the cure.
Which is where we have to look at fighting back at machine speed. Because if the attackers are using AI to exploit us in milliseconds, we have to use AI to defend in milliseconds. Qualys has this incredibly interesting tool called Agent Val, which works with their True Confirm system. And its entire purpose is to prioritize the less than 1% of CVEs that actually matter to your specific environment.
This is huge. Let me tell you, the hardest problem in enterprise vulnerability management is not finding vulnerabilities. I can run a basic commercial scanner right now and find 10,000 vulnerabilities on a standard, well-maintained enterprise network.
Yeah, everything is vulnerable.
Everything. The problem is prioritization. Knowing which 10 of those 10,000 actually pose an immediate exploitable risk today. Qualys uses their true risk scoring algorithm to filter the noise based on threat intelligence. But the really fascinating, groundbreaking part is the True Confirm module.
Yes. Validating exploitability safely in a production environment.
I have personally bricked a server before trying to test an exploit in the field. It is a terrifying feeling. You read about a vulnerability, you run a penetration testing script to see if your system is actually susceptible to it, and whoops, the legacy web server panics under the payload and drops offline. You just caused the outage you were trying to prevent. True Confirm runs the proof of concept without the destructive payload.
Right. The Qualys report gives the perfect historical example of Log4Shell. Everyone in the industry remembers the absolute panic of Log4Shell a few years ago. It was a flaw in a logging library used by almost every Java application on the planet.
Oh yeah, I remember.
But just because a server has a vulnerable version of the Log4j file sitting on its hard drive does not mean it is actually exploitable from the outside internet. Agent Val uses TrueConfirm to safely verify if the JNDI execution path, the specific mechanism the attacker uses to reach out and download malware, is actually active and reachable in that specific runtime environment.
It is the difference between being vulnerable on paper and exploitable in practice. If it is exploitable, Agent Val proves it mathematically. It does the same thing with Eternal Blue, the famous exploit behind WannaCry. It only flags it as a critical priority if the SMBv1 file sharing protocol is actually enabled and exposed to the network, not just because the Windows version is out of date.
And once it definitively proves the exploit path is real, it uses an AI-powered patch reliability score to decide what to do next.
I get so fired up about this patch reliability score. You have no idea the pain this solves. In the field, when a 0-day drops, upper management yells patch now. But what patch now usually translates to in a complex environment is break everything now.
Exactly.
You push an untested patch to a critical OT server, it introduces a software conflict, and suddenly the factory floor grinds to a halt. A tool that analyzes massive amounts of historical telemetry data across thousands of companies to tell me the statistical likelihood of a specific patch causing an outage. That is the holy grail for a systems engineer.
And if the AI determines the risk of patching is too high, say it predicts a 40% chance of bricking the server, Agent Val offers a third path. It is not just a binary choice between patch and pray or delay and accept the massive risk. It introduces the concept of mitigate now and patch later.
Exactly. Instead of changing the core code, it can automatically deploy as virtual patch. It can dynamically update a WAF rule, a web application firewall, basically a shield sitting in front of the application to block the specific malicious traffic pattern.
Right.
Or it can orchestrate network containment, isolating the host from the internet while keeping it functional internally, giving me the crucial time I need to safely test the actual software patch during a scheduled weekend maintenance window.
Well, Tom, this ties perfectly into the Al-Kindi Center research paper on ServiceNow and Harness CI/CD integration, because Agent Val is the brain making the decision, but an AI brain needs hands. You need a massive orchestration layer to actually execute the fix across a complex multi-cloud environment.
Right. The Al-Kindi paper outlines the exact architecture for this. They talk about using ServiceNow as the central orchestration control plane, combined with Harness for the deployment pipelines and cross-platform PowerShell scripts to actually execute the system changes. You build this completely automated, self-healing pipeline.
Walk me through what that looks like in real time during an attack.
Okay, a day -1 vulnerability is detected in the wild. Within minutes, Agent Val scans your network and confirms, safely, that your billing server is vulnerable and exploitable. It checks the patch reliability score and sees the patch is too risky to deploy immediately.
Okay, so what happens next?
So, the mitigation path is chosen automatically. ServiceNow instantly triggers a workflow. It talks to Harness, which deploys the compensating wave control to block the exploit. The system is secured, and a Power BI dashboard updates in real time to show the CISO that the threat was neutralized, all without a human ever touching a keyboard.
So, to use an analogy, generic AI, like a standard LLM chatbot that just summarizes threat intelligence feeds, is basically just a guy on the news reading you the weather report. He tells you a massive hurricane is coming, which is helpful, but you still have to board up the windows yourself. But agentic AI, like Agent Val, hooked into a ServiceNow orchestration pipeline, is a smart, autonomous thermostat that sees the storm coming, actually turns on the AC, actively closes the motorized storm shutters, and then verifies with sensors that the room is secure and cooled down.
Yes, that is the exact distinction. APIs, application programming interfaces, just move raw data from one security tool to another. Generic LLMs just output inference based on text. But agentic AI carries operational ownership of the entire validate, mitigate, revalidate loop. It finds the hole, it proves there's a threat, it patches or mitigates it, and then it retests the patch to mathematically prove the hole is gone.
That level of automation is absolutely incredible. It feels like the only viable way to fight these machine speed day -1 attacks. But if we step back and look at the big picture for 2026, building this highly integrated automated utopia is causing massive, massive friction inside IT departments. Which brings us to the consolidation imperative and the AI trust gap.
Because the tool sets we are currently using to try and build this are completely broken and fragmented. The Manage Engine 2026 Outlook report lays this out perfectly. 74% of enterprise organizations are using 2 or more completely different identity vendors.
My pen just died. Seriously, hang on, I'm just going to press hard into the paper to indent it so I can read it later. Okay, I am back. 74% use multiple identity vendors, and 1 in 3 security professionals admit they spend more time actively managing their vendor platforms than actually managing privileged users.
Let that statistic really sink in for a second. You are a highly paid, highly trained cybersecurity analyst,
Right.
and you're spending more time on endless Zoom calls with vendor support teams, trying to get 2 different API keys to talk to each other without crashing, than you are actually looking for threat actors on your network.
It is a waste of resources.
Complexity in IT does not scale gradually. It spikes exponentially the absolute second you add a second system to your stack. Security teams are drowning in integration troubleshooting instead of hunting threats.
Which is exactly why consolidation is no longer just a trend or a debate at conferences. It is a survival imperative. 76% of North American firms are either actively consolidating their security stacks or deeply evaluating how to do it. The era of the best-of-breed strategy, buying a new, shiny, standalone security tool for every micro problem that pops up, is over.
It's too complex.
Way too complex. Even in environments where IT budgets are being severely cut, 31% of the time those budget cuts are specifically driven by the financial and operational efficiencies gained from consolidating 10 tools into one platform.
But the consolidation of software tools is only half the battle. The other half, much harder half, is crossing the AI optimism gap.
Right. The survey data shows that 91% of organizations are currently using or piloting some form of AI in their identity operations. Almost everyone is trying it. But only 7% have achieved a full organization-wide deployment.
Why the stall? If it is as powerful as Agent Val, why is it stuck in pilot purgatory?
Because of the massive gap between executive expectation and operational reality. 66% of business leaders expect AI to deliver massive transformative value within 2 years, but only 44% see actual positive outcomes today. And the root cause of that stall comes down to the trust gap. Practitioners simply do not trust the black box of AI.
And I do not blame them. Speaking from the field, if a black box AI makes an autonomous access decision and inexplicably denies the CEO access to the central financial system during a live quarterly earnings call, I am the engineer who gets fired, not the algorithm.
Exactly. You carry the operational risk. And beyond internal politics, regulators strictly require explainability. You need auditable logs. If an AI system flags a user as a critical threat and locks down their workstation, the human incident responder needs to know exactly why, what data points led to that conclusion. Without clear explainability, you cannot distinguish between a brilliant, proactive AI insight and a random AI hallucination.
And the real crisis, the structural issue holding all of this back, is not even the software technology. It is the human talent. Implementing this autonomous self-healing pipeline requires a hybrid expert. You need someone who deeply understands traditional identity and access management protocols, but who also understands advanced data science, machine learning models, and AI-specific security vectors like prompt injection.
Good luck finding that person.
That person basically does not exist in the normal labor pool, and if they do, they cost $500,000 a year.
So I have a structural question for you. Are we just replacing vendor lock-in with AI lock-in? If we are willingly handing the keys to our entire infrastructure over to an automated agent Val system because we mathematically lack the human talent to manage a 144-to-1 machine identity ratio, who watches the watchers?
That is the multi-million-dollar question. And it brings me to a final, truly provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over as we wrap this up. If you deploy these autonomous AI agents to defend your network, and you grant those agents the power to act on your behalf at machine speed, and one of them gets compromised or hallucinates badly and autonomously rewrites or deletes a critical production database,
Oh, man.
who is legally liable?
Wow, that is, yeah.
Is it the vendor who wrote the AI model? Is it the AI itself? Or is it the human administrator who blindly gave that machine agent a 10-year lifespan, a master key to the database, and then went to sleep? The technology is moving vastly faster than our legal frameworks and compliance models can even begin to comprehend.
So basically, to synthesize all these reports, we are locked in a machine-speed arms race where the sheer exponential volume of non-human identities and autonomous AI agents has completely outpaced our human ability to manually monitor them.
What this comes down to is stopping the manual bleeding. You have to aggressively shrink the attack surface, drop the legacy static secrets entirely, move toward secretless cryptographic workload identity, and let machine-speed defenders like Agent Val and automated CI/CD pipelines fight the machine-speed attackers on their own terms.
I need a drink after that one.
You and me both.
Yeah.
That is it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening to Cybersecurity Under Pressure. Real attacks, real lessons.
Until the next attack, hopefully just on this deep dive. See you next time.
See you then.